Remember when I said last week that necromancy can do wonders? Well, Puppet Combo is single-handedly demonstrating my point. An independent developer with a Patreon and amazing vision, I was entranced by the glass staircase for months before I caved and actually bought it. And it did as promised, keeping the strong points of early PlayStation survival horror games alive. It's just that it's trying to keep all survival horror games alive. On one game. I am so conflicted on this game. I tweeted early on about how good it was, and it was good early on when it was pretending to be Silent Hill 1, a game that I've already established that I'm in love with. But the glass staircase lets itself down when it tries to be Resident Evil at the same time, which is also a great game, but for different reasons. It's eating a beef stew with gourmet cupcakes in it. It doesn't work, even though both elements are perfect. It makes sense why I was drawn in. The marketing, what little there was, came mostly from the first half of the game, that is, the Silent Hill part. I should qualify what I mean by the Silent Hill part. It's foggy and isolated with messy graphics, low ambient noise, voyeuristic camera angles, and an underlying darkness that no one's addressing. And I think that they were hoping to sell the game under the assumption that survival horror players operate like a Kinsey 3, and that players will like atmospheric suspense and balls-out action about the same and the same amount. For the most part, the goods and the bads of the game balance themselves out. You get a rifle halfway through the game with a slow reload speed and unlimited ammo, and optional auto-aim that only works 50% of the time. The graphics are deliberately evoking older styles, meaning it's pixelated and could have come out in 1999, but it adds to the overall tone, so it's fine. In my last Silent Hill 3 Let's Play segment, I mentioned how there weren't any black protagonists, and Margaret ends up being the final girl. But she only stands out from the other characters in that she's the only one with enough brains to engineer an escape attempt and doesn't have any characteristics beyond that. The game is short, but I don't think that works in its favor, especially since it feels like two very different ultra-short games smushed together. If it could have expanded on any of the story that we were given, or drawn more attention to its more intriguing questions, I think that it would have felt less like set dressing and more important that we were experiencing the story. Resolving some of the plot holes would have also helped. Where did the girls come from? How did Margaret get a message to the outside? Who was the guy at the end? Where are Edward and his wife? There was another girl mentioned in a tape near the end. Is she still in the house? What happened to her? Expanding on these, or even hinting at the answers, could have given the game's story an edge, but as they're on their own, they sort of feel like a waste of potential. Puppet Combo, the developers, say that it's meant to be the length of a horror movie and costs about $6 or $7 at the time of writing. And that's the going rate for a copy of House of a Thousand Corpses. So did I enjoy this game as much as if I had just bought House of a Thousand Corpses again and rewatched about half of it? And yes, I did. The tension and atmosphere from the first half are the sort of things I wish were in all horror games, since those are the parts of the horror genre that were pruned in the late 2000s for no reason. I wouldn't even say that the second half of the game kills it. It's more like it just kneecaps it and forces it to a crawl. I'm still recommending this because I want to encourage the developer to make more stuff like this. He's the only one who's really understanding what atmospheric survival horror should look like nowadays. There's a limit to how much the developer could have polished it, but I don't think that answering some questions in the story would have taken away from it at all. I'm looking forward to seeing more stuff like this from this developer, and should I be rating this game? Sure, yeah, let's rate it. Let's say an 8 out of 10 for the first half, a 6 out of 10 in the second half, 9 out of 10 for the creative vision. However you want to average that, that's what the game is. Can we puff up our hair and do that again? And it makes sense why I was drawn in early. Yeah.